The deep metaphysical nature of good and evil. That's what we're talking about today. Tolkien's work is incredibly well known. I love it, you love it, everybody loves it. What's a little less well known is Tolkien's views on good and evil, and they're incredibly deep and incredibly profound. Something that you'll notice as you go through Lord of the Rings is that evil and good are never polar opposites, each with an independent existence. Instead, evil is always a corruption, a derivation, a parody of good. But first of all, why talk about good and evil? Aren't these just big, complex metaphysical questions that we don't need to deal with on a day-to-day basis? Well, actually, I think we do. All the time, every day, we are making choices, and when we make those choices, we are almost always, or maybe even always, choosing between better and worse things. In other words, we're making quality decisions. We're making decisions about value, what is good and what is bad. And whether that is in a moral sense or in a more technical sense, when you blow up that concept of the value decision of choosing between better and worse to its great cosmic proportions, what you're fundamentally talking about is good and evil. A consequence of that idea is that your ordinary, normal, mundane life and Tolkien's incredibly epic conflict between good and evil that plays out in Lord of the Rings might actually be the same story. Both you and the people in Lord of the Rings are making quality decisions. And as Éomer and Aragorn say at the beginning of The Two Towers, good and evil have not changed since yesteryear, and it is still man's part to discern which is which and to choose between them. Okay, on to Tolkien's view of good and evil. In Lord of the Rings and in Tolkien's whole legendarium, good and evil, rather than being equal and opposite pairs, instead have a very different relationship. Evil is always a derivative, a corruption, a parody of good. It is always a bad copy of the good which existed previously and independently. Orcs are a really great example of this. Although the origin of orcs, there's a little bit of a debate about it, the most common theory is that orcs were elves that were twisted and corrupted. That's also the theory that's put forward in Peter Jackson's adaptation of the trilogy into film. What orcs are, according to this theory, is they are elves that have been taken and tortured and twisted and corrupted. And so you take the elf, the original good thing, and turn it into the orc, the imitative, corrupted, derivative, foul and evil thing. Now, orcs and elves aren't the only example of this. This also appears to be the case with Ents and trolls. Again, there's a debate about this too. Tolkien's legendarium is very complex and there's varying theories. But again, one very prominent theory is that trolls are derived from Ents, that they are the dark, twisted version of what was originally good. Now, although the precise genetic and biological origins of orcs and trolls are somewhat up for debate, it's very clear if you read all of Tolkien's work that he's trying to make a very important philosophic point here about the relationship between good and evil, and the way that bad is always imitative, derivative, and a bad copy of the good. This is particularly evident when you look at Sauron. What you may not know is that Sauron was not always a Dark Lord. He originally was a transcendent angelic being inside of Tolkien's legendarium. He was of an order of angels, let's say, roughly paralleling Gandalf. And so Gandalf and Sauron are the same type of being, they're the same species, but one fell and became bad. So there you have that relationship again. Now, Sauron isn't the first or even the most prominent example in Tolkien's writings of this fallen angel motif. The Lord of the Rings is one small story set in Middle-earth, and there's thousands of years of cosmic and mythic history behind it. Part of that cosmic and mythic history is another figure named Morgoth. Basically, you want to picture Sauron, a Dark Lord, great and terrible, but 10 times as big and 10 times as bad. Now, Morgoth was also a fallen angel, and in fact, he was present at the creation of the world. In Tolkien's legendarium, at the very beginning was a god-creator figure named Iluvatar, and he had all of his angels, and they sung the world into existence, which itself is kind of a cool idea, to sing things into creation. Now, all those angels were singing according to the music that Iluvatar had given them, and Morgoth was also in that choir of angels. And every time the angels would sing, Morgoth would try to introduce a new theme that he himself had come up with into the music. And each time Iluvatar would introduce another theme that would combat Morgoth's theme and bring the music back to resolution. And this happened 3 times as the world was being sung into existence. At the very end, Iluvatar stops the music and he calls Morgoth out for what he's been doing in corrupting his music. Here's what he says. Mighty are the Ainur, the angels who sung the world into existence, and mightiest among them is Melkor, that's another name for Morgoth. But that he may know, and all the Ainur, that I am Iluvatar, those things that ye have sung, I will show them forth, that ye may see what ye have done. And thou, Melkor, shalt see that no theme may be played that hath not its uttermost source in me, nor can any alter the music in my despite. For he that attempteth this shall prove but mine instrument in the devising of things more wonderful, which he himself hath not imagined. Or, in normal speak, Hey Morgoth, you are pretty cool. You're pretty impressive. And you have tried to wreck my music. But something that you'll learn as we go along is that you can't produce any music that doesn't have its deepest source in what I've already created. And also, you can't alter the music against my purposes. Because if you do, I will be able to weave your music in and make something even more wonderful than what you have imagined. And there you have it. That is Tolkien's core idea about good and evil, that good and evil are not polar, equal opposites, each with an independent existence, but instead that there is good. And that everything that it is that we call evil or bad is a bad copy, an imitation, a derivative, a corruption. So, Morgoth, Sauron, elves, orcs, trolls, ents, how does that play out in normal life? If you start using Tolkien's view to evaluate the things around you, then you'll notice that your view of them starts to change. You'll start to see how bad, evil things are twisted, corrupted, perverted versions of good things, and because of that, you'll be able to correctly rescue and find the good in everything around you. This is also similar to the idea of the Jungian shadow. Jung believed that the thing that you most need to find is where you least want to look, and that includes looking at the darkest parts of existence and the darkest parts of your own character in order to be able to extract what is necessary and good out of them in order to create a healthy and cohesive character. One of the things that he said was that no tree can have its branches reach to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. One of the cool things about Tolkien's way of looking at good and evil in reference to Jung's theory is that it allows your roots to reach down into hell while also permitting your branches to stretch into the heavens. You can look at what is evil and extract what is good out of it. Extract that originary source, that originary seed of goodness, and then to be able to strip off and throw away all the chaff, all the garbage, all the evil that has accumulated and crusted around it. Now, this is not the mainstream view of good and evil often. In fact, here I have a card to Other Joseph's video where he talks about the yin-yang symbol and how he doesn't think that it represents good and evil very well. And this is very similar along those lines, that good and evil are not co-equal and opposite. Instead, evil is always a dark, twisted version of good. My belief and my experience has been that when I look at good and evil in this way, it just sinks me and roots me right in the Tao almost immediately. It gives me an enhanced ability to see the good and the bad things around me, to extract it out appropriately, and then to integrate it into myself. And it also gives me a purer, clearer vision of what is good and an enhanced capacity to hold on to it. In the end, I think Tolkien's way of looking at good and evil is just far superior to the Rock'em Sock'em Robots model of morality, where good and evil are two co-equal opposites that have nothing to do with each other, and they just punch it out in an arena eternally. To me, that's just unsatisfactory, and I think Tolkien's view gives us a much, much clearer view of what the universe is like and how to act in it. And that's why I think Tolkien might be one of the deepest moral philosophers of the 20th century. All of Tolkien's works are flat amazing, and if you haven't already checked them out, in the description I've left some affiliate links to Amazon where you can buy his books, watch the movies, and also check out the Silmarillion if you haven't already read that. If you use the affiliate links, we get a small cut of the purchase, and it doesn't cost you anything extra. It's a great way to get into Tolkien's works and also help support our channel. I'm also leaving a link here that goes to our video about the Grey Jedi and Star Wars that we filmed now like I think a year and a half ago. There's a lightsaber duel and we talk about good and evil. Super awesome. You'll want to check it out. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.